Welcome to Judicial Dollars and Cents, brought to you by Anders Virtual CFO Services team from all across the United States. I'm John Scott, and in each episode, we'll shine a light on the financial side of the legal world, turning law firm numbers into impact-driven stories. From taxes and profitability to practice growth and leadership, we sit down with law firm innovators who are shaping the future of the profession. Let's dive in, right here on Judicial Dollars and Cents. Hey, and welcome back to Judicial Dollars and Cents, where the business of law meets the practice of law. I'm John Scott with Anders Virtual CFO Services for law firms, and each week we sit down with successful attorneys, legal innovators, and business leaders to explore what it really takes to build a thriving law firm. We go beyond the courtroom to discuss leadership, profitability, operations, marketing, technology, AI, and the strategies that help firms grow, scale, and create lasting value. Whether you're a managing partner, an emerging leader, or simply passionate about the future of the legal profession, our goal is to provide practical insights you can put to work immediately. Today, we are honored to welcome Max Ciolino. Max is a partner at Ciolino of Onstott, which is a boutique New Orleans law firm focused on estate planning, business law, real estate, and personal injury. Since co-founding the firm, Max has helped hundreds of Louisiana families navigate estate planning and succession matters with a philosophy centered on clarity, compassion, and accessibility. The firm emphasizes direct partner access, transparent pricing, flexible fee arrangements, and the use of technology to improve the client experience. Max's path to the law is anything but traditional. Before becoming an attorney, he earned a degree from Loyola University in New Orleans, the University of Pennsylvania, and then Tulane Law School. And he spent several years working in public education in New Orleans and Philadelphia. That background in education continues to influence how he practices law today, helping clients understand complex legal issues with empathy and confidence. We are welcome to the show, Max.
Yeah, thank you
for having me. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm sure it's very hot in New Orleans, but this is our last day of heat until it goes into the 80s and less humid.
Yeah, no, it's extraordinary here. For sure.
Are you going to be affected at all by the tropical storm?
I think we're going to have like a day and a half that are really windy. This isn't really going to be a heavy rainstorm, at least by current models, and it's almost here. So I think that, I'm going to go outside and move my loose stuff inside, but I'm not too worried about this one.
Well, here in the Midwest, when we have a major storm coming, we bring out the lawn chairs and we watch it come in. So
sure. Okay. Well, yeah, I wouldn't recommend that down here for truly a major storm, but this one we could probably get away with that.
Hey, Max, I like to start with folks' origin stories, and I think you have a unique one. Can you tell us how you got from undergrad to here today?
Yeah. It's a question I ask myself all the time, honestly. So as you kind of mentioned in the intro, when I was an undergrad, I kind of developed a passion for public education. I expected to go into some sort of education field. First, I thought I would go into teaching, and then I thought I would go into legislation, which is kind of where the law school route came in. But as I was progressing through my education, I just kind of kept getting pulled further and further into a more traditional, legal practice. And the other day I was thinking about it. I was like, if you told me I was going to be running a law firm, in 2010, I probably would have made absolutely sure that I didn't end up here. But I actually really like my job. And as you mentioned again in the intro, I have an opportunity to do a lot of educating. Actually, if I spun my computer around, you'd see my whiteboard, and that's like my favorite thing in the entire building is my whiteboard. My clients come in, I grab a dry erase marker, and I'm like, what are we worried about? And just start drawing, legal concepts, family trees, hypotheticals, all that stuff. And so I think I still do have that innate like teacher inclination, but I apply it to educating clients.
I think that's a fantastic skill set, and we've had a surprising number of teachers who really in the class they're used to, talking to a classroom and explaining things in a way that people can understand. The other thing that they excel at is training our internal staff, because they have that background of
Yeah.
explaining complex matters so that people can understand them. How do you, in this ever changing environment of AI, how are you utilize AI in what your firm does?
Yeah, I think that my firm is still presently kind of like walking the perimeter right now. We have not, dramatically transformed our operations here. I think we do expect to. Um, I would say that well, the biggest change that we have made is actually on the marketing side of things, which is that clients used to Google stuff, but now they're using these AI chatbot tools to who's the best estate planner in New Orleans or whatever. And what we were finding was we actually hit almost a cliff. Like our phones were ringing as normal, and then one day they just weren't ringing anymore. And the reason for that is that the way people use the internet changed, and the way we were presenting ourselves didn't. So we retrofitted, our operations again on the website side of things, and how we were pointed to AI chatbots to be found. And that again, it was a night and day difference. We went from like regular calls, no calls, lots of calls, just by making those adjustments. On the actual practicing law side, I think, in successions and estate planning, it doesn't have that much to offer me, because a lot of those are template heavy and kind of plug and play models that we built before those tools existed. So if I did it today, it'd be helpful, but I already built all these workarounds. But I do expect that at some point we're going to adjust. And I think what we're kind of waiting for is for a seamless collaboration between different programming that it does exist now, but it's so hard to figure out which one to use and how to integrate it that we just haven't bit the bullet on it. But if someone calls my law firm, they go through one route, and then I kind of get involved and put them in this other program. And then when they want to sign a contract, I draft one in Google Drive, but download it to Adobe and then send them a DocuSign, and then I put that back. And like, there's just like a lot of connection that I think AI will offer us, that I'm excited about, but we don't have it yet.
You're so right. It is kind of cumbersome now, but it's ever changing. So keep your eyes open. I mean, things are going to be seamless at some point, and hopefully, we can't use that human oversight and element to it, but if we can replace them repeatable mundane tasks, then it will be a help. Hey,
Right.
Let's spend a few minutes talking about running the business of a law firm, realizing that most lawyers don't have an accounting or finance background. And at Anders, we work with firms on KPIs, forecasting cash flow, et cetera. I'm curious to you, what is the most important thing that you judge the health of your firm on, numbers wise?
Yeah. I think that so much about my firm has changed recently, mostly in that we actually did bring on kind of a CFO contractor to help us navigate. I find that when my business partner and I look at the same numbers, we see different things, and so there's only two of us. And I think that was causing some friction. So we brought in a third party to help us pick which KPIs we were looking at, and evaluate how much risk we were willing to take. How much of a runway do we need? How much is too much money to put into a new program, or again, an AI overhaul, for instance. And so we've only been working with them for a few months, and I think and that's why I'm a little reluctant to answer your question, because I'm like, what we were looking at 6 months ago isn't what we're looking at now, but we haven't quite finished transforming it yet either. But at the end of the day, the two attorneys here need to get paid. And so, as we're looking at how much of a runway we want to keep and how much we want to invest in the business, can we also pay our own personal bills and build our own personal wealth as well, is again part of that ongoing conversation. So I feel like I did a terrible job of
Do
answering
you
your
feel
question.
more comfortable?
Yeah.
Do you feel more comfortable now that you have taken that out of the partner purview and allowed someone else to pull the numbers together? Do you feel like you can sleep better at night?
And I did think it was kind of a bit ironic that I was introduced to you like within a couple of months of hiring a CFO. But I will say that I think of it as a night and day thing. Like I don't ever want to go back to not having a fractional CFO assist us. And I love our current folks. Whether we make changes down the line, whatever. But if it was just me operating a law firm, which is how it started, it's just too much for me to have in my head, which I did. I had it all in my head, no one else to collaborate with. But then, when you have a business partner, and my partner and I have been together for probably 9 years now running this law firm, you hit the same friction points over and over again. And there's just no way to resolve it. His values and mine are different, and so having someone kind of help us compromise and bring an expertise to, how much risk we're taking and how much surplus cash we're holding that we just don't need, really helps both of us come towards the middle on those issues where before that it was just like, no, I think we need this much money. That's it. I think we need to keep that much money and you want us to put the firm at risk or, vice versa, So.
Well, and one of the benefits of outsourcing it or hiring that person is it allows the two of you to practice law and do what you're really good at. I liken it to my doctor a few years ago quit making rounds at the hospital and he hired a hospitalist. And just about the time I was in the hospital, he pulled the trigger on this. And I called him. He's a personal friend of mine. And I said, hey, what's going on? And he said, well, look, it takes time for me to go over to the hospital and make rounds. He goes, by not doing this, I have to pay for the hospitalist, but it allows me to see X number of more patients a day and spend time with them and really do what I love doing. And so by hiring that outsourced CFO, you two can practice law and serve clients and probably more than replace the money that you're paying that person.
Yeah, I would absolutely say that's true, and especially
Hey,
because
I read through your website.
Oh, sorry, you want me to finish that thought, or do you want to go ahead?
No, go ahead. Go ahead and finish.
I was just going to say that poring over financial spreadsheets is really overwhelming to me. I love teaching my clients about estate plans. I love moving the files through my firm. But when I sit down with those spreadsheets, it takes me much longer to look at those. And I think, again, going back to my partner and I's relationship, he's naturally better at it than I am. So I also felt kind of like a sort of built-in disadvantage. I'm like, you understand this? I don't. Hear my feelings about it. And he's like, well, here's the data. And I'm like, I don't know about all that. So again, just having a third party in the room take it out of both of our hands, I think also helped equalize us on that conversation. So it wasn't like he's better at it, so he should call the shots. It was we can both get a third party to assist. So
I want you to push your fractional CFO to create some dashboards, maybe some graphs and pictures, because your personality versus your partners would probably take that in a lot better than just a spreadsheet with numbers on it.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to see where they take us because they've done some great stuff, but we're still just getting to know each other after a few months. So.
Hey, I've been looking at your website, and your firm repeatedly talks about providing clarity, transparency, and peace of mind. Those aren't really legal terms. They're more about the client experience. How have you been intentional about creating this great?
I think that my favorite part about being an attorney is getting to know my clients and helping my clients. And when people call me, they're worried about something that people don't usually call an estate planning or a successions attorney because everything's totally fine. They're worried about their son who might need some help if they pass away. They're worried about their relative who's gotten a prognosis and might not be with us much longer. Someone in their family just passed away, and they don't know how hard it will be or how expensive it will be. And I get to bring these folks who I never met before, into my life and into my office and help them understand the legal infrastructure that currently exists, but also how we can help them navigate it, affordably and efficiently. I think that for those two practice areas, especially estate planning and succession issues, I think people expect them to be much more challenging and much more expensive than they actually are. So we've built our firm around turning these files around quickly and not, creating too much of a financial burden on our clients. And so when I'm having these conversations, most of what I'm seeing is like relief after relief. They're like, oh, it won't be 6 months of probate. Like, oh, it won't be, $15,000. Like, oh, it's this affordable, relatively quick, thing that we're going to go through together. And then they can get back to their lives. So I think it doesn't hurt that I have been, in therapy pretty much all of my adult life, but I also married a therapist or someone who became a therapist during my wedding marriage as well. So I think that there is just a lot of mental health awareness in my home and in my law firm as well. So when I think about, again, estate planning and successions, these are opportunities for grief and for stress. And we want to remove that as much as we can, because obviously there's still a loved one who's passed away, or a fear, a recognition of your own mortality. But we can help navigate, again, those opportunities for bad circumstances to arrive, or for circumstances to get out of control.
You bring up this trauma concept and helping folks through that. And I'm seeing more and more law firms embracing the trauma and the empathy for the client and what they're going through. So I applaud you that you recognize that, estate planning can be a wonderful thing, but it also can be a crisis thing. They have a special needs child, or they're going through the worst loss of their life. And so it is a difficult time for them. Switching gears a little bit, how do you charge for your estate planning work?
Almost 100% of my estate planning files are on a flat fee basis. So we moved to an hourly model. You're probably familiar with revocable living trusts. In Louisiana, they offer some benefits, but there are limited benefits. I think that when we are helping clients with revocable living trusts, we're often on an hourly basis, but the vast majority of my clients don't need those complex mechanisms given the Louisiana estate laws. In Louisiana, the probate process is really fast and it's really cheap. So a lot of what the revocable trust offers you is skipping probate to avoid all those delays and all those costs. We don't have those delays and costs here. So the revocable trust doesn't help you in that way. Louisiana also doesn't.
And with the estate exemption,
go on.
Well, with the federal estate exemption so high, estate planning for tax purposes is not necessarily the pull that it used to be. What's the Louisiana estate tax? Is it a lower threshold, or is it mirror the feds?
There isn't one. So there's virtually no reason to do estate planning for tax purposes.
So tax planning is not necessarily a reason to do estate planning.
No, not here.
So on a flat fee basis, how do you set that fee? Do you track time to see if you're job costing it correctly?
I don't track my time. And I know that I should. We structure it to where
hopefully your CFO pointed that out.
Well, they haven't done a deep dive on our practice area models yet. Again, that's all stuff we're going to get to. So I probably will get in trouble down the line. So thanks for the warning. We essentially break estate planning into three categories. There is a simple will, which is really what most folks call us for. Although I mentioned you don't need revocable trusts as much here, there are uses for them. It's just not an obvious thing. Everyone gets one, where it is in some states, as you know. A lot of my clients do need a testamentary trust, though, and that allows you to protect minor children by keeping them from inheriting your full estate if you pass away when they're minors, like on their 18th birthday. So you can delay the inheritance through a testamentary trust. And then powers of attorney are the third set. And so we just have a flat per person fee for each of those three categories. And it's almost like a menu, just like pick which category applies to you. We talk about the benefits and liabilities of each grouping, and then, generate a very straightforward and very low cost. By and large, I would say that I have a sense that I earn roughly my hourly rate through the estate planning. Every now and again, somebody asks me to do something so easy that I'm like, that was, perhaps too profitable. And then other times, I find myself just going over and over the same stuff again, and I know I'm losing money, but it just is what it is. It normally, I think, comes out in the wash. It's a good practice area for our firm.
So typically a husband and wife comes in and they, you get them their wills, maybe a trust, but it comes down to the medical power of attorney. Do they typically name each other as the POA for their medical decisions?
Yeah, virtually always. Every now and again you have someone whose brother.
I have a story to tell you here after you tell me yes.
Please. Yeah, so every now and again someone has a brother who's a doctor or a best friend who or there's a business concern that they want that person involved. Again, most of the time they're nominating their spouse, and then afterwards, their most responsible child or their best friend or their sister or something like that as a backup.
Well, my most responsible child rotates on a regular basis, so I didn't go that route. But my father called me 20 years ago, and he was having surgery, and he called me and he said, I'm going to have neck surgery, and I've signed a document that if things go bad, I want you to pull the plug. And it was totally irrational on his part. It was a minor neck surgery. And I got off the phone and I told my wife this conversation. And she says, oh, I'll help you. And I said, whoa. So I put that in the back of my mind. You fast forward 6 weeks, we go see our attorney, get our documents updated, and the medical POA comes up, and the attorney looks at me and says, I assume you want your wife as your POA. And I said, nope. Yeah. I said, she can have a 1/3 vote. And then I named my doctor and a friend of mine who was a doctor. I said, 2 of them have to vote that my quality of life is not there. Then they can pull the plug.
Well, it's good to know who you're married to. You had a little test run, see how she reacts to circumstances, and it was terrifying. So good on you for updating your documents. Yeah.
So you are based in New Orleans. You spent a lot of time there. It is the food mecca of the world, but you are a sober, gluten-free vegetarian. When you're not cooking for yourself, give me a restaurant option in New Orleans that caters to your lifestyle.
There are very few. I would say that in general, you can usually find a good meal at an Indian or a Thai restaurant. So I lean very heavily on those. And then a lot of like the Mexican or Tex-Mex restaurants or Latin American restaurants down here have something for you. But yeah, by and large, I don't eat at a lot of restaurants because I'm a very good cook, and I make, and when I go to those places, you'll look at the menu and you'll be like, I can have that one thing, so I'll have that one thing, and so like at home I can create, elaborate dishes or different dishes over time, but pretty much at any restaurant I go to, I'll order the thing on the menu that I can have. A lot of my clients come in, they're like, well, man, we just got our estate plans done, and that's a total weight off. Let's go get a nice lunch. Do you have any recommendations? And I'm like, I don't. I have no idea where you should go. Good luck. I haven't eaten at any of the restaurants that you should go eat at. So
I got one more New Orleans story for you.
Yeah. Please.
So I have 4 children, and 2 of them talked me into going to look at a college down in New Orleans. One was Loyola. The other one had no interest in going there, but it was a ruse to get me to take him to New Orleans.
Yeah.
And both of them were 18 or 19 at the time, and were under the belief that on Urban Street, if you would get served alcohol. And I knew this wasn't true, but my daughter, she was the first trip, and we went up to a mounted policeman on Bourbon Street, and I asked her the question in front of her, and he's like, no, that's not true. So that shut that down. The youngest took us down there. We went down there. We stayed just off Bourbon Street. And the first night we go out to dinner, and he asks to order a beer. He's 18 years old, and she cards him, and he hands her his license. This is what I see. And she serves him. And I said, hey, what's going on? He goes, yeah, they don't look. Same thing happens. The bouncer looks at his ID. So now I'm thinking, hey, come on, this guy really studied this. So I confronted him, and he, of course, had a fake ID. And he goes, you look disappointed. I go, well, I am disappointed because you normally tell me everything.
Yeah.
He goes, well, I thought you'd take it from me. I'm like, it's quite the adventure to take a child there.
Yeah, no kidding. I love that he waited until he got into the club for yeah. Go on.
Right. We were all bought in at that point.
Yeah.
Hey, before we wrap up, what's the best way for folks to get a hold of you or your firm?
Yeah. Like I said, we just did a whole bunch of work to get us chat GPT or AI search result friendly. So
get a hold.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's a little bit of a delay, I think, that we're encountering. That I would say just ask your chatbots how to find us. So no, you can Google me, Max Ciolino, Ciolino. Ciolino and Onstott's the law firm. We do, great work for our estate planning and succession clients. We also do real estate partitions, personal injury, and business. And yeah, come on by and see me, and I'll draw some pictures for you on the whiteboard.
Max, thank you so much for joining us. And thank all of you and all our listeners for tuning in to Judicial Dollars and Cents, where the business of law meets the practice of law. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, follow, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Better yet, share this episode with another law firm leader who could benefit from today's discussion. Until next time, I'm John Scott with Anders Virtual CFO Services for Law Firms. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us on Judicial Dollars and Cents, presented by Anders Virtual CFO Services. If you found value in today's conversation, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcast. To learn more about how Anders helps law firms strengthen their financial foundations and drive growth, visit anderscpa.com. Until next time, keep making smart decisions that make perfect sense.